From the shop where I just picked up a set of high lifters, high clearance A-arms for my Pliers Razor 900S. Actually several advantages to these arms. One is you've got an extra 1.5 inch clearance at the bend of the arm. Two, they actually move the wheel hub center forward 1.5 inches. That way you can run up to 3-inch larger tire with the same amount of clearance as stock. Three, when coupled with the rear offset arms, you've got a 3-inch longer wheelbase, which is going to give a little more stability when you're climbing steep hills. And four, they actually drilled and tapped for an alemite that Pliers forgot. But anyway, let's go ahead, let's get this thing jacked up. Let's get the jack stands on it. With the wheel off, first thing I'm going to do is fish this brake line out. This front clamp, or this rear clamp here, it's actually pretty easy to get the brake line out of it. But this front one here can be a little tricky, so I like to take a screwdriver and just prise up on it a little. And you want to make sure you don't want to hurt that brake line. You just want to prise it up enough that you can get that brake line out without damaging it. And if you're afraid to do this, you can always break that off or drill that pop rivet out. It's as easy as that just to get it out. Just got to be careful and not damage the brake line. And next, I'm going to go ahead and remove this lower shock bolt. So something I like to do is take a little bungee cord and just kind of tie it up out of the way. The next thing I'm going to do is remove this upper ball joint bolt. This is the bolt that holds the ball joint in place. Next, I'm going to go ahead and take this tie rod loose. And if you're just replacing the upper and lower arm, you replace them separate, you probably wouldn't have to take this loose. But like I say, I'm going to pull this axle out. I want to grease the splines, so I got to pull that out too. Next, I'm going to go ahead and take this lower bolt out. Now with both ball joint retaining bolts out, you should be able to just slowly work that axle out. You want to be real careful. You don't want to put no stress on this brake line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little stool here, and I'm just going to lay the axle and hub assembly on that stool and out of the way for the time being. With that bolt out, you're going to want to stick your hand down in here somewhere and catch this nut when it falls out. Or do like I did and just let it hit the floor. There it is. And if you've never done this before, you might want to mark all these bolts. That way you know you put them back where they come from. Front bolt out, I want to go ahead and remove this rear bolt. Then the upper arm should just pop right out of the frame. Now with that bolt out, I can go ahead and get my last bolt on the lower arm. Now with the last bolt out, the lower arm will pop out. Now before pressing the new ball joints in, you're going to want to pick up your old arm and look at it. Look at the orientation of the ball joint. And you want to make sure that you press your new ball joint in the same way as your old arm. Just slip the snap ring over the ball joint, and you should hear it pop into place. And something I like to do, I like to take a screwdriver and just tap it all the way around it to make sure it is sitting in place. Next, you're going to want to take and remove all the bushings from the stock arms. You're going to reuse these on the new arms. Unless you bought new ones, which I didn't. Mine's still good, so I'm reusing mine. These bushings on the small end is a little bit tougher to get out. You want to be careful when you're getting these out. You don't want to ruin them if you plan on reusing them like I do. Just slowly tap it a little, and you should be able to take a screwdriver. Just work around it and start popping it out. Once you get it out so far, you should be able to take your hand and pop it out. like that right there without damaging it. Alright, with the bushings out, we're done with this arm. So I'm going to set it aside. Now, these bushings are dry. We're going to go ahead and pop them back into the new arm. And then, these other two bushings here, I'm going to go ahead and wipe all the grease off of them. Go ahead and pop them into place. And these should push right in. Now this pen, pliers run it dry. I'm going to go ahead and, it was dry when I pulled it out. There's no alamide on it. I'm going to go ahead and slide it back in. With it in, I'm going to go ahead and install the alamites. You want to make sure and get these turned so you can get a grease gun on them, but you don't want to over tighten them. So you just want to snug them up. And then we're done with the upper arm. We can start working on this lower arm. Now all I'm using on this lower arm is them bushings. So I'm going to go ahead and set it aside. I'm going to go ahead and clean these pins just like I did those others. Next I'm going to go ahead and pop these bushings in. With that done, we can go ahead and install these new alamites. Again, like the other arm, you want to make sure and point these in the direction that you can get a grease gun on. But you don't want to over tighten them, so there's a fine line there. You think you're ready to install them, you want to double check both the arms and make sure you've got these clips on here because you don't want to forget those. And they would be easy to forget. But then, with both arms done, you're ready to reinstall them. When putting this back together, I want to start with this lower arm. And I want to start with this rear bolt. Just because that front bolt is aggravating to get to, the rear bolt's a little easy. Now with both of those installed, I'm going to go ahead and install the upper arm. Now with the A-arms back on, I'm going to go ahead and put a little more grease on these axle splines. And the axle should just push right in like that. Next I'll go ahead and reinstall the shock bolt. Alright, Now with all that done, with everything looking good, I can go ahead and install my tie rod. Now with everything installed, you're going to go back over every nut and bolt and make sure everything is tight. Make sure you didn't forget nothing. With everything double checked, and now I know that everything's tight, I'm going to go ahead and put some zip ties on this brake line to help hold it in place. That way I ain't got to worry about something coming in contact with it out on the trails. And when you're zip tying this brake line down, you want to check again and make sure that this brake line is run like it was from the factory. It was run across the top of this upper A-arm. Now with everything double checked and everything put back together, I'm ready to put the wheel and tire back on. Now after getting both sides installed, you want to go back over and measure from wheel to wheel and check your alignment. I got 43.5 up front, 43.8 in the back. And that makes sense because when we move the wheels forward, it pulls the back in. So now we're going to have to extend the back and narrow the front to get the alignment I had before. In order to do that, you just adjust your tie rods by taking your lock nut loose, your jam nut, and spin your tie rod. Now one of these jam nuts and tie rods is going to be a left-handed thread, one of them is right. So you want to make sure that you spin it in the right direction. You're loosening instead of tightening. Now, if you spin this one a full turn, you want to do the other side the same way. That's one full turn. So now I want to go to the other side and do it the same way. Now I've got 43 3/8. And I've got 43 3/8 on the back. So that's real close to what it was before, so I'm going to run it like this. I'm going to see how I like it. If I need to fine tune it, I can fine tune it a little. And that's all there is to installing the high clearance forward arms for the Razor 900S.